Right folks, as we can see, the garden is on a gentle slope in that direction there. So the difference between that end and that end, I reckon it's about 4 inches, something like that. So where do we start then? Well, our starting point for the borders or the edging is going to be at the highest level there, and I want the first board to be round about 1 inch above the turf line here. Okay, so as we proceed from one side to another, it's going to get a little bit higher. So I've got some old decking boards then. Well, I say old, I mean I've never used them basically. They were surplus to requirements when I built the fence and the gate, so I'm going to be using those. So they're pressure treated then, they're in very good condition, and I'm going to use those as the border. Now I was going to use some concrete slabs, but I want to do this as cheaply as possible, but I want it to be effective, and so therefore I'm just going to do pretty much exactly as I've done here, only as I say I'll be using the decking boards which are surplus to requirements to save a little bit of cash basically, but they will still hold everything in situ and be fit for purpose. So here then I'm digging a small trench which will accommodate the edging. So it's just going to go across one side of the lawn to another, and I'm going to backfill this with some of the MOT road stones just to make sure that it drains properly, and that in itself will make sure also that the stakes and the timber border are kept in the best possible condition for the longest period of time. Now it's also important to mention that you don't necessarily need to put a border in like I'm doing. If you wanted to, you could just dig down far enough and you could use the turf line as a border for your patio. But because this garden is on a slope, I really need something just to sort of keep everything together in one place, which is why I'm putting the timber border in. So here we go, look, here's a trench which is just wide enough and deep enough just to accommodate the timber edgings and also the stakes. And I will be backfilling it with the MOT stone. Right peeps, so I was going to use the decking boards to form the boundary of this patio. However, I then realised that I had another significant piece of timber which would probably be stronger and last longer. So here it is. So this is the bit of timber in question. Now it does have a slight curve in it. It's a little bit bent because it's been sitting outside now for 2 years, but it's in otherwise really good condition. It's been pressure treated. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to use that instead of these decking boards here. Now look, don't get me wrong, the decking boards I'm sure will suffice, but they're not going to be as strong as that. This will cover the majority of the length. Okay, so if we put it down there, so we've got a little bit to make up down here. So I think what I'm going to do to try and conceal the bit that I'm making up as much as possible, I'm going to have this big bit down here, look, so this is going to be more visible, and I'm going to build up this end here with 2 or 3 strips of this, if that makes sense. Anyway, it should all become clear when I start tacking this into place. Okay then, so in the next few clips I'm going to start cutting out some of the stakes. I've got some 2x3s here, and the exact sizes aren't really that important. I'm going to make these about 2 foot long. They just need to be sufficiently long just to be able to anchor them into the soil and also to attach the timber edgings to. So I'm using a cordless circular saw here, which will be the subject of a review quite shortly. So once I've cut the stakes to size, then I'm just going to make some points on the end. As I say, no point measuring these out. You know, you can just do them freehand and they work absolutely fine. And incidentally, these timbers were treated a few weeks ago with some timber preservative, so I'm not going to bother doing it again. And as you can see, just freehanding this look, you know, it doesn't need to be absolutely perfect, does it? And the main thing is, you can make some points on these stakes in order that we can bang them into the ground. Right, so we've got a decent number of stakes then just to make a start on this. And what I'm now going to do is to put this big piece of timber in place in order that I can mark the position of the stakes and start setting them into the ground. And at this point it became clear that last time I used my £5 lump hammer, I should have been a little bit more careful and made a note of where I left it, because pounding these stakes into place using this tiny claw hammer wasn't the easiest thing to do, but you know, lessons learned. I won't make that mistake again. And as you can see, this is an absolutely wonderful day for it. The sun's shining, it's not too hot, not too cold. It's a really lovely day just to be out in the garden working on another project. And the reason for using another piece of timber is just to stop the end of the stakes splitting when you're pounding them with a hammer. So I'm going to work my way across the garden with these stakes then, and obviously as I go from one to the other I'm going to use a spirit level just to make sure they're completely level. So here then I'm going to start tacking the timber into place, and just in case you're wondering, yes, I am using some drywall screws here, reason being that I left the other decking screws on another job basically and forgot to bring them with me. So I'm going to tack the timbers into place and then go back and reinforce all of these using some longer, stronger decking screws and also some of the longer turbo gold screws which I've used in the past for building the frame of the man cave, so it will be nice and strong and sturdy. Now we mustn't forget that it's raised a little bit in the middle, okay, so what I'm going to do then, we've secured it that end there, we can see that the next level is this peg over here, so I'm going to secure that, bang a couple of stakes in between and we'll try and push it down a little bit. So as you can see then, I'm attaching these boards to the stakes using about 3 screws. Want to get the other stronger screws, I'm going to put a couple of those in, but I won't be removing these black screws. I'll just leave them in place and they'll still be very strong and nice and secure. So here's another DIY top tip for you then. You can use a straight edge and plonk a spirit level on top of that if the distance to be measured is longer than the spirit level. Perfect. So what I'm doing then, just to finish off on this end here, I've got some more 2x3s. I've cut them to size and I'm just going to screw them together using some, they're either 4 or 5 inch turbo gold screws. I had a few knocking around in the man cave. So I'm just screwing them together, and as you see they are exactly the same width as the longer piece of timber. So all you'll be aware of is the join, and I'm just going to put a few screws in here just to make it really strong and sturdy. And this will work an absolute treat. And once again, all of these timbers were recently treated with a timber preservative. So because I'm joining these timbers together, I've got a couple of stakes on there. Look, I've tried to space out these stakes evenly just to make sure that aesthetically it looks alright, although you're not going to really notice once I start putting the roadstone and the slabs on top. But anyway, look, as you can see, if you take a little bit of time, you can get things nice and level. And although the bubble may appear to be off, it's just the angle of the camera. I can assure you that's completely flat and level. So we're now working our way around the corner and using the decking boards to form the boundary of this, and I'll be strengthening those a little bit later. I just want to get them in first. Right folks, so we're coming to the end of the video then. Thank you once again for joining me. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like the content, and also if you like the sorts of projects which I upload, please feel free to subscribe to my channel and share the content with your family, your friends and anybody who you think may benefit from the videos which I upload. So part 3 is in the process of being edited at the moment, so it will be uploaded very shortly. Thank you again. Bye bye. Beautiful.